John Wayne, the Duke, died almost a third of a century ago, but his popularity lives on.
Leave them carry off their hurt and dead.
Well, Reverend, that tears it. No, and you stay out of this.
We'll take a look at this huge estate in Encino, south of Ventura Boulevard along Luis Avenue. This is the old estate of John Wayne.
When John Wayne passed away, it was time to divide his wealth according to his will, at least the parts that were physical and monetary. But while that was happening, some unbelievable things were found in his estate that will leave you in shock. Treasures like his rare Kachina dolls, priceless Native American artifacts, and other valuable items were found. How did Wayne keep these hidden, and how did his family react to what was left behind? Join us as we reveal what was found in John Wayne's estate that will leave you in shock. The unusual discoveries in John Wayne's estate. John Wayne was an actor with an interesting personality and a combination of even more interesting assets found in his estate. But before we get into that, let's see what was actually in his will that led to the shocking discoveries in his estate. John S. Warren, Wayne's lawyer, filed the 27-page document in Orange County Superior Court. It stated that Wayne's estate included $1 million in real estate, $5.75 million in personal property, and $100,000 in income from his investments. Interestingly, his wife at the time, Pilar Wayne, wasn't mentioned in the will, but Warren explained that she had already been provided for in their separation agreement. Wayne did leave money to two of his longtime secretaries. Mary St. John, who had worked for him for years, received $10,000, while Pat Stacy, his secretary at the time of his death, got $30,000. But what about his third wife? And what did he leave for his children? Stay tuned, because the most interesting part is just ahead. Wayne left each of his 7 children a sum based on multiplying $5,000 by the years between their age and 21. His oldest son, Michael, who was 44, received $115,000. His valuable art collection, which included paintings, sculptures, and Native American artifacts, wasn't passed to his family, but was donated to organizations that could offer tax benefits to his estate. The rest of his estate went into trust accounts, with one providing his first wife, Josephine, $3,000 a month for life, with the remaining funds going to their 4 children after her passing. His second wife, Esperanza, had passed away earlier. Wayne also had land holdings, including his Arizona ranch, which was part of his personal property through shares in a corporation. His ranch partner, Lewis Johnson, was named a trustee of the estate. He also owned a home in Newport Harbor and land on Puget Sound in Washington. Another major asset was his production company, Batjack Productions, Inc., which Wayne left to Michael, who had been involved with it for years. Michael was also named one of the administrators of the estate, alongside Mr. Warren and Mr. Johnson. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 2 people were specifically left out of Wayne's will. First, Pilar Wayne, but as mentioned earlier, that was due to their separation agreement. The second was Donald LaCava, the husband of Wayne's eldest daughter, Toni. Not only did Wayne exclude him, but he also made sure Donald couldn't inherit anything from Toni's share if she passed away. When asked why, Wayne's lawyer refused to give an explanation. Beyond the will and who got what, some really unexpected things were found in John Wayne's estate, things that will shock your shock absorber. One of the biggest surprises was his huge collection of Kachina dolls. Wayne had a deep appreciation for Native American culture, which led him to collect 81 of these beautifully crafted figures, which come from Hopi traditions. These dolls weren't just decorations, they were used to teach about different deities. After he passed away in 1979, his entire collection was given to the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City, where some of them are still on display today. Wayne's collection had some surprising gems, like a rare set of the North American Indian by Edward S. Curtis, with only 200 copies made, showing how much he respected Native American history. He also had Buddhist Thai statues in his home, reflecting an interest in spirituality and different cultures. In 2011, his belongings were auctioned off, and the results were jaw-dropping. His green wool beret from the Green Berets went for $179,250, and his driver's license sold for $89,625. But the most iconic item, his eye patch from True Grit, brought in $47,800. With all these finds, Wayne's family didn't have to worry about money. Each discovery only added to their wealth. John Wayne's 3 wives and 7 children. John Wayne's family continues to profit from his enduring popularity. In 2013, he almost made it onto Forbes' list of top-earning dead celebrities. In 2011, his son Ethan Wayne auctioned over 700 pieces of his father's memorabilia, raising $5.38 million for the heirs. Ethan runs John Wayne Enterprises, which manages his father's name and image. The company is owned by Wayne's 7 children from his 2 marriages, though his second marriage didn't have kids, and 2 of his children passed away, leaving their shares to their own kids. When Ethan took over, he decided to auction off items and find new ways to profit from his father's legacy, sparking legal battles. In 2006, he fought his half-brother's widow over valuable memorabilia. In 2010, his sister sued him and the company to buy out her share, with the siblings unable to agree on the company's value. Most recently, Ethan launched Duke Spirits, using his father's name to sell Kentucky bourbon, after finding handwritten notes and bottles of his dad's favorite brands while going through old boxes. He partnered with a wine company to create the new drink. But what about his love life? How did he end up with 7 children? Get ready, it gets more interesting. Wayne was married 3 times and divorced twice. His first wife, Josephine Alicia Sanz, was of Spanish-American descent. His second and third wives, Esperanza Bauer and Pilar Palete, were from Latin America. He had 4 children with Josephine: Michael Wayne, Mary Antonia Tony Wayne LaCava, Patrick Wayne, and Melinda Wayne Munoz. With Pilar, he had 3 more kids: Isa Wayne, John Ethan Wayne, and Marissa Wayne. Several of Wayne's children followed his career into film and TV. Ethan, sometimes called John Ethan Wayne, appeared in movies and had a lead role in the 1990s Adam 12 reboot. He also appeared on Pawn Stars to authenticate items related to his father. His granddaughter Jennifer Wayne, Aisa's daughter, is in the country music group Runaway June. In 1973, Pilar, who loved tennis, encouraged Wayne to build the John Wayne Tennis Club in Newport Beach, California. The club was sold to Ken Stewart, the former general manager, in 1995, and became the Palisades Tennis Club. In the 1952 film The Quiet Man, Wayne tells Michaeline Oge Flynn, played by Barry Fitzgerald, that he's 6 feet 4.5, and Pilar later confirmed this in her book John Wayne, My Life with the Duke. Wayne's divorce from his second wife, Esperanza Bauer, was full of drama. She believed he was having an affair with co-star Gail Russell, but both Wayne and Russell denied it. After filming Angel and the Bad Man, Wayne came home late to find Esperanza drunk and in a rage. She tried to shoot him as he entered the door. Wayne had several well-known affairs, including one with actress Merle Oberon that lasted from 1938 to 1947. After separating from Pilar in 1973, Wayne started a relationship with his former secretary, Pat Stacy, and they lived together until his death in 1979. Stacy even published a book about their time together in 1983, called Duke, A Love Story. Despite all these, John Wayne also had a humble beginning. John Wayne's early life, career, and legacy. You might be surprised to know that John Wayne wasn't always called by that name. He was born Marion Robert Morrison in Winterset, Iowa. In the May 30th, 1907 edition of the local paper, Winterset Madisonian, it was reported that Wayne weighed 13 pounds at birth. He wasn't your typical child either. Growing up in Iowa, Marion developed a love for sports early on, and one of his favorite activities was playing football with his dad, who had played college football. In December 1912, Marion's brother, Robert Emmett Morrison, was born. Not long after that, the Morrison family decided to move to California. Marion's dad had developed a health issue, and doctors suggested the dry climate could help improve his condition. In 1916, the Morrisons settled in Glendale, California. The town of Glendale was a perfect spot for the family with its nice weather and small-town charm. It was here that Marion got the nickname Duke. His dog, Duke, an Airedale, was always by his side, and Marion would often visit the local firehouse with him. The firefighters knew the dog's name, so they started calling Marion Duke, and it stuck. Duke Morrison, a member of the class of 1925 at Glendale High School, was involved in sports and school activities. He played football as part of the champion varsity team and was a 170-pound guard. He did well in school too, earning the Bronze Honor Pin and writing for the school newspaper, The Explosion. He also got involved in student government, becoming junior class representative, vice president, and later president for the class of 1925. Duke also helped plan the senior class dance and reception. His athletic talent and academic achievements earned him a college scholarship to the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. There, he joined the Sigma Chi fraternity and kept up his good grades, studying pre-law. While at USC, Duke worked part-time with some of his football teammates at Fox Film Corp. He was part of the crew moving set props and occasionally worked as an extra, often playing a football player. In 1926 and 1927, Duke appeared in films like Brown of Harvard, where he played a Yale football player, and Drop Kick, where he played a USC football player. So with all this football action, how did he end up becoming a filmmaker? You're on the edge of your seat, and it's about to get even better. After a football injury ended his scholarship at the University of Southern California, John Wayne started working at Fox Film Corporation, where he became friends with director John Ford. His first leading role came in The Big Trail, 1930, but it was his performance as the Ringo Kid in Ford's Stagecoach, 1939, that truly made him a star. This role made Wayne a top figure in Hollywood, especially in Western films. Throughout the 1940s and 1950s, Wayne continued to rise as a box office favorite, starring in a series of successful films that showed off his versatility and presence on screen. He worked with famous directors like John Ford and Howard Hawks, creating timeless classics like Red River, 1948, The Quiet Man, 1952, and The Searchers, 1956. His portrayal of more complex characters in these films proved he was more than just the typical Western hero. In 1969, Wayne won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role as Rooster Cogburn in True Grit, solidifying his place in American cinema history. In the 1940s, Wayne supported the U.S. military, traveling to the front lines during World War II with the USO. He loved spending time with family and friends on his yacht, the Wild Goose, which became a regular sight in Newport Harbor. When Wayne was diagnosed with lung cancer, he didn't want to keep it a secret, saying, "There's a hell of a lot of good image in John Wayne beating cancer." Even after losing a lung, he continued taking on physically demanding roles and advocated for early cancer checkups, doing public service announcements for the American Cancer Society. Wayne also co-owned a 39-mile cattle ranch in Arizona, the 26 Bars Ranch, which raised over 400 Hereford bulls a year and often won awards. He loved attending stock shows and making speeches. In 1980, on his 72nd birthday, Wayne was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, which was presented to his family, and friends like Maureen O'Hara spoke in support. To honor him further, in 1979, Orange County Airport was renamed John Wayne Airport, and visitors were greeted by a 9-foot bronze statue of Wayne, capturing his iconic Western look, forever remembering one of the greatest stars of the 20th century. Lee's one-inch punch. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is the most well-known move in martial arts history. As its name suggests, the one-inch punch is a technique martial artists use to hit targets at incredibly close range. The thought that, if done right, an attacker can exert enough force to bring down his opponent makes it unique. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch gained widespread recognition as early as the 1960s, about 10 years before Lee rose to prominence as a global martial arts celebrity. Lee became famous when he demonstrated it at the Beach Karate National Championship. At the time, the martial arts community took notice of him widely. Interest in Lee's one-inch punch increased dramatically as his notoriety increased. Although Lee made the move so famous that many renowned martial artists from different kung fu forms now utilize it, Lee remains the most well-known practitioner of the technique. Keep watching. The story is just getting interesting. Lee did not come up with the one-inch punch suddenly in 1964. It is based on Chinese martial arts in general and the instruction he received as a teenager. Lee's martial arts expertise began in the 1950s when he trained under Wing Chun Grandmaster Wing Chun, who laid the groundwork for Lee's form of Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do. The one-inch punch's tenets derive from its theory, since Wing Chun is a fighting style for close quarters. Lee was already acquainted with techniques designed for close quarters combat because of his training in Wing Chun. Before the one-inch punch was publicly unveiled, Bruce Lee's pupil, James DeMille, provided insight into Lee's development method. He claimed that Lee developed an enhanced version of an already known Wing Chun move. Lee attempted to shorten the technique by experimenting with various stances and angles, since he thought it would be more effective if performed from a closer range. Eventually, they found a combination that worked. Lee demonstrated its power once by throwing someone 16 feet back and landing them squarely in a chair. Lee's accuracy, instant execution, speed, a crucial attribute for which the actor is currently well known, and the precise angle at which he accomplished it are all responsible for his accomplishments. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is mighty because of his speed, which is also one of the reasons so few martial artists have been able to replicate it so well. Lee's father taught him the foundations of martial arts. During his teenage years, Lee got entangled in gang disputes in Hong Kong, which resulted in a lot of street battles. Lee's studies of Wing Chun had the most significant impact on his development as a martial artist. After suffering defeats at the hands of rival gang members, 16-year-old Lee trained in Wing Chun under Ip Man in late 1956 and early 1957. Form practice, sticking hand drills, wooden dummy techniques, and free sparring were the main components of Ip's regular lessons. The classes followed no predetermined schedule. Between 1956 and 1958, Edward, the coach of the St. Francis Xavier's College boxing team, trained Lee in boxing. In 1958, Lee defeated Gary Elms, the defending champion, via knockout in the Hong Kong Schools Boxing Championship final. Following his relocation to the U.S., Lee was significantly impacted by heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali, whose moves he observed and adopted into his style during the 1960s. Lee advocated mixed martial arts training and was especially interested in grappling. In addition to Jean LaBelle, Lee received instruction from several judo practitioners in Seattle and California, including Fred Sato, Jesse Glover, Taki Kimura, Hayward Nishioka, and Wally J. He studied as much as he taught, and many of his early pupils were skilled in judo and other martial arts. On the set of The Green Hornet, Lee became friends with LaBelle and offered to teach him striking arts in exchange for learning grappling tactics. Lee's grappling tactics. Prominent grapplers Lou Thez and Ed Lewis had taught LaBelle to catch wrestling, and vital judo and catch wrestling techniques can be found in Lee's Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Ji Hanjai, the Hapkido instructor, also taught him some grappling techniques. Glover claims that Lee's main observation about judo's ineffectiveness was when it came to seizing the opponent. During their first training session, Glover demonstrated an Osoto Gari for Lee, which Lee thought was a good technique, but he didn't appreciate that Glover had to cling to Lee. Lee learned how to avoid being tackled or taken to the ground by opponents while living in Seattle. Glover said that Lee would not go to the ground if he could get you standing up. Still, Lee told LaBelle that he wished to incorporate judo into his fighting technique. He added judo throws, arm locks, and chokeholds to Jeet Kune Do, including the Osoto Gari. Lee showcased grappling moves in his films, including Way of the Dragon, where his character finishes his opponent Chuck Norris with a neck hold inspired by LaBelle. Lee felt grappling was not very useful in action choreography because it was not visually distinctive. In addition, Lee and Han Jae trade grappling techniques in Game of Death, and Lee uses wrestling to subdue Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's character. The training regimen of the Great Gama, an Indian-Pakistani Pelwani wrestling champion renowned for his strength in the grappling hold, also impacted Lee. Lee used Gama's workouts as part of his regimen, but that's not all. The Dragon Flag Bruce Lee was an extreme sportsman. According to his widow, Linda Lee, he would watch TV athletes perform full splits and never miss an opportunity to work out. Bruce's wife claimed that he would practice and hone his talents virtually every minute of the day. He knew he would need to put in a tremendous deal of practice and exercise to be the best martial artist in the world. Building up his core was Lee's top priority out of all the muscles in his body, since he felt that the stomach region, or core, is involved in practically every movement and is crucial in martial arts. Lee created what is now known as the Dragon Flag in his honor to strengthen his core. It is regarded as one of the most challenging core workouts available if you can't figure it out. Since Lee didn't play around, though Lee is said to have been able to sustain his entire body on the edge of a bench with only his shoulders touching anything, while the rest of his body remained perfectly rigid and horizontal to the ground, Stallone may have popularized the move in Rocky IV. These days, martial artists worldwide use Bruce's Dragon Flag exercises as a standard because of his ability to make martial artists understand the value of having strong core muscles. Stay tuned. The best part of the video is just around the corner. Lee's superhuman strength. Bruce Lee's sheer power is one of his accomplishments that many people fail to recognize. Although it may seem apparent that a martial artist must possess strength, most people are unaware of Bruce Lee's actual level of strength. Most people think that having very massive muscles equates to strength. Most likely, when you imagine someone who is powerful, you envision someone roughly 6 feet tall with more muscles than they could need. But Bruce Lee was a tiny man, but he possessed strength beyond the reach of most people's imaginations. Examining his training bags is a simple method to demonstrate this. Bruce practiced punching and kicking with training bags like other people do, but he would devour these packages in an instant. He would frequently pound through or rupture standard punching bags to the point where it became inconvenient for him to use them. Bruce would therefore have to locate denser, heavier sacks that would not break under the impact of his extraordinary power. Remember that a typical punching bag weighs roughly 50 kilograms. However, Bruce frequently had to utilize bags weighing more than 135 kilograms. According to reports, Bruce was able to kick these bags many feet into the air, which just served to highlight how amazing things are. Bruce could send these sacks moving, but if you tried to kick one yourself, they probably wouldn't move more than an inch or two when you made contact. Bruce Lee understood the human body like a pro. Not only could he perform an astonishingly high quantity of push-ups, but he could complete them with just one hand. He was once put through a test to determine how many push-ups he could complete. Bruce boldly decided to go further and challenged himself to perform push-ups with just 2 fingers. He accomplished more than 200 push-ups in this try. Later, he set a higher standard and accomplished at least 100 push-ups using his thumb. If that weren't enough, he frequently performed hundreds of pull-ups with just one hand. But there's still another awe-inspiring accomplishment. Bruce Lee could perform more than 1,500 consecutive push-ups without pausing if you were to judge him only on his standard form. Although that is utterly unbelievable, that is the reality. There was no man like this. That's not all. Bruce Lee enthusiasts have long known this, but those unfamiliar with martial arts might not. Bruce Lee was acclaimed as one of the world's best martial arts actors when he shot to fame in the 1960s and 1970s, but he came dangerously close to failing in the film industry. You might wonder why, since he was just too quick. Filmmakers could not capture Bruce Lee's movements in real time when they worked on The Green Hornet, one of his most well-known TV series. We now own cameras capable of recording at 30, 60, 120, or even 240 frames per second. However, most cameras in the 1960s and 70s had trouble recording film at a speed of only 24 frames per second. As a result, most of Bruce Lee's fight scenes appeared incorrectly in the film. As the filmmakers soon discovered, Bruce could throw 9 punches in a second. In addition, he had a 6-second kickoff speed. Bruce appeared motionless in numerous combat scenes because capturing his movements on a camera that could only capture 24 frames per second at most was difficult. Producers on the set then claimed that the footage they captured showed Bruce standing still as his foes descended around him. In actuality, though, his talent was too outstanding for the movies to match. The filmmakers had to ask Bruce to slow down so they could follow him properly. which helped to correct the dilemma. But even after that, his movements appear quite hazy on camera. If you enjoy watching martial arts movies, you've watched Karate Kid before. When you watch the movie again, you probably remember a scene where Daniel LaRusso practices using chopsticks to capture flies. What looks easy on the surface turns out to be quite challenging. Bruce Lee, though, would go one further. Regretfully, there was never a flawless photo of this accomplishment. However, according to reports, Bruce Lee would throw pieces of rice into the air and use chopsticks to catch them. He took this action to sharpen his reflexes in the most remarkable manner imaginable. He was reportedly very expert at it, seeing the rice practically every time it was thrown into the air. His reflexes were significantly quicker than any of his rivals at the moment. And after all these years, nobody has been able to equal or exceed his achievements. It seems so complex that many people today question whether Bruce Lee was able to accomplish this accomplishment at all. However, this is simply one more instance of Bruce Lee's superhuman abilities. Jeet Kune. Bruce Lee is the creator and practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, also known as JKD. It is a hybrid martial art that translates to Way of the Intercepting Fist in Chinese. It developed as a new school of martial arts philosophy from Lee's experiences in unarmed combat and self-defense, and eclectic Zen Buddhist and Taoist beliefs. As an eclectic martial art, it relies on a fighting style heavily influenced by Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Taekwondo, boxing, fencing, and Jiu-Jitsu. Bruce Lee himself never formalized Jeet Kune Do before his death, forcing later JKD practitioners to rely upon their interpretation of the philosophy created by Bruce Lee. The central idea of Jeet Kune Do is the interception of the opponent and making corresponding responses or counterattacks that strike at incoming attacks. JKD also incorporates principles to help practitioners make instant decisions and improve the physical and mental self. The story just got much more enjoyable. 4 universal combat truths that Lee believed were self-evident and, if followed, would lead to combat success were incorporated into Jeet Kune Do. He thought that the 4 combat ranges in particular were crucial to his development as a total martial artist. Additionally, mixed martial arts are mostly tied to this principle. The intercepting idea comes from the belief held by JKD practitioners that a potent offense is always the best defense. Lee thought an opponent had to approach a target to attack them. This presented a chance to intercept that assault or motion. Intercepting physical attacks is not the only application of the interception principle. According to Lee, many nonverbals and telegraphs, subtle motions that an opponent is blind to, can be read or intercepted and utilized to one's benefit. Forming the offensive aspect of JKD, the 5 ways of attack are attacking categories that assist practitioners of Jeet Kune Do organize their fighting repertoire. The defensive part of JKD consists of the ideas of stop strikes and stop kicks, and simultaneous parrying and punching, which were taken from European fencing and Wing Chun's principle of simultaneous striking and defending. Lee adapted these ideas for unarmed combat and incorporated them into the JKD framework. Additionally, these ideas support the other interception principle. Lee said martial arts systems ought to be as adaptable as feasible. He frequently utilized the analogy of water to explain why flexibility is a valued quality in martial arts. Water has limitless flexibility. It can be seen through, yet it may also sometimes make objects invisible. It can break apart, circumnavigate obstacles, reassemble on the opposite side, or smash through obstacles. It can flow by the tiniest pebble or slowly lap at the toughest boulders to dissolve them. These are the qualities Lee thought a martial system ought to possess. Because of this rigidity, JKD students reject conventional fighting tactics, training regimens, and Confucian pedagogy in traditional kung fu schools. JKD is an incredibly flexible, dynamic idea because it is constantly changing. Bruce Lee is credited with saying, "Take what is beneficial, throw away what is useless." It is encouraged by JKD students to study every possible kind of warfare. This is thought to increase one's understanding of other combat techniques, build up one's armory, and teach one how to counter such strategies. Lee, the magician. If you've ever watched a magician up close, you've undoubtedly seen this timeless trick of taking a coin from behind someone's ear. Most magicians master this fundamental trick at some time in their careers. Unbelievably, Bruce Lee used to execute an identical feat for his followers. Bruce Lee would offer you a coin and place it in your hand rather than hiding one behind your ear. He would want you to extend your hand as far apart as possible. Bruce then had you close your palm before he could take the coin from you, detecting even the slightest movement on his part. No one could ever stop this man from taking the coin out of someone's palm because of how fast he moved, but Bruce continued to refine the trick over time, making it even more impressive. Bruce would not only take the penny before the person could close their hand, but he would also replace it with a different one. Whenever you believed the situation was under control, he would open your palm and show you that a new coin had been inserted. Imagine, please, if this man had chosen to use his abilities for evil rather than good. He would have been an expert swindler. Fortunately, Bruce made a far more honorable life choice: Lee's legacy and impact. As a pop culture hero of the 20th century who united East and West, Lee is regarded by some commentators and martial artists as the most influential martial artist of all time and time, ranking Lee among the top 100 significant individuals of the 20th century. Lee has been the subject of several biographies. More than 4 million copies of a biography had been sold by 1988. Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a combat sport inspired by Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts ideology developed by Bruce Lee that draws from several combat techniques. Bruce Lee popularized the idea of mixed martial arts in the West with his Jeet Kune Do system. According to Lee's beliefs, the most excellent combatant can change with the times, be unstructured, take on a unique style, and disregard established norms. Many people's interest in martial arts can be mainly attributed to Lee. Among them are several combat sports fighters who cite Lee as an inspiration. Boxing great Sugar Ray Leonard claimed he learned how to perfect his jab from watching Lee. Boxing great Manny Pacquiao likened Lee to his fighting style. And UFC champion Conor McGregor has drawn comparisons between himself and Lee, stating he thinks Lee would have won the UFC if he were still competing today. In the 1970s, Lee inspired Joe Louis and Benny Urquidez to start full-contact kickboxing events in the United States. Jun Gu Rhee, the father of American Taekwondo, acquired what he refers to as the occupancy from Lee and adapted it into his style. The heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali learned the occupancy from Rhee, who later became his coach. Ali utilized this technique to submit Richard Dunn in 1975. Everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee. In the 1970s, heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson claimed. John Jones, the current UFC heavyweight champion, credited Lee as an inspiration. Jones is well known for often employing the oblique kick to the knee, a move made famous by Lee. The former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva has also mentioned Lee as an influence. Several other UFC competitors have called Lee their grandfather or godfather of mixed martial arts, and many have cited him as an inspiration. Lee is recognized for having influenced how Asians were portrayed in American movies. He disproved notions about Asian men that they are weaker than men. Tough, strong, and sexy is how University of Michigan lecturer Hye-Seung Chung described Lee's portrayal of Asian males, breaking with previous preconceptions that portrayed them as emasculated, infantile, coolies, or domestic servants. Lee's fame also created a new Asian stereotype, the martial artist. At first, audiences in North America who saw his films were primarily Hispanic, Asian, and Black.
Like when Brandon Lee died, he died on a set of a movie in a special effects scene. They shot him with a fake gun, a gun with blanks, but there was some piece of a shell or something that was still in the chamber of the gun, and that shot into him.
There aren't many people who die and are actively mourned and celebrated after more than half a century has passed. Which of his unusual possessions do you find the most fascinating? What do you think about John Wayne's legacy? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.